Press.
Hello, hello, hello. Welcome in.
Welcome.
Final day, active defense and cyber deception in the age of AI. Gosh,
You gotta say it. Yeah, you gotta throw it at the end.
that is a mouthful. And today's bingo day. Whoop, whoop, whoop. I will share the bingo card. Yes, we're alive, Roswell. Roswell, do you have questions about bingo? Because, are you going to try and make some fancy shape out of your bingo this time? He made me an M one time with his bingo card.
Oh, yeah.
That's awesome.
And we have Kevin and Alan with us. They're joining us today. They're doing some shadowing. They are our part of our AV team. Kevin is our lead for AV for Wild West Hackin' Fest, and they do some other events. We do some private training stuff. So welcome, guys.
How's it going? How's it going?
We're getting all ready and geared up for Wild West Hackin' Fest in October.
Yeah.
Daryl and I will be running the virtual side of things.
Oh, I was going to ask you virtual again?
Yeah.
Okay.
I'm going to be doing a lot more actually. So
are you? Okay.
I'm a little nervous about it, but we won't talk about that on camera.
Oh, we got to have a little chat. Okay.
Yeah. So that's something we take an offline. But
Gotcha.
No, we really want to make sure that, going in person to Deadwood is obviously an experience unlike any other cybersecurity conference that there is ever. From the chuck wagon steak dinner to the mechanical bull to the just all the things, and just the people there are so awesome. So we want to try to make the virtual side a little bit more interactive and better, a better experience because we love our virtual students, like the class we're currently in. So we definitely want to try and make it more, do different stuff. So yeah, you already got volunteered for that too, Daryl. So
gotcha.
I'm sure you're going to be super excited about it. But yeah, so welcome in, guys.
Sure, you can see the excitement on my face.
Yeah, it's gonna be fun. It's gonna be super fun. And John should be here in a few minutes. Like I said,
he's in the backstage. He just got in the backstage.
Oh, he did?
Yeah.
Oh, cool. So I will share the bingo card, and Roswell, I'm sure, will come behind me and fix my link. You actually have to click on the link, not the picture, right? Isn't that what it is, Roswell? He always fixes it for me. Hi, John. We have Kevin and Alan here too.
Yeah.
Yeah.
How's it going, guys?
I'm getting you guys a new van.
That's awesome. Awesome.
Yeah.
like what size van
is it going to say free candy?
Size, but it's going to be like a U-Haul. It's going to be actually for long haul traveling.
I love it.
Nice. We're working on it right now. All right, I need to go get some OJ. I'll be right back, Jeff.
All right. Okay.
What van you guys got now? What do you guys drive?
Well,
we had
the whale.
The whale. I've heard the whale. I've never seen it. What is it? Just a big van or something?
It's a
box truck.
An Isuzu. It's a
Isuzu box truck, but it's not meant for long distance. It's made for city travel.
Oh, okay.
It's short. It's one of those short fronts. Yeah, it's just not.
And we believe something's wrong with the computer. That's what we believe, but we just can't fix it. Like every time we take it out, it ends up
something happens.
Yeah. Up until now, luckily we've been able to not break down, but we did break down and had to change everything, from one vehicle to another. But it's cool.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's cool.
Yeah, I'm sure going up and down those mountains is not very.
I'll tell you, it wasn't that bad.
I have a story. So
okay.
On the way back, it was, I think it was about 50 miles in South Dakota, and we start just driving, and it was a great day. It was nice and sunny out, and then all of a sudden the highway, the 2-lane high, well, 4 lanes if you want to add them all together, disappeared. It turned into dirt. There was no highway.
What did you go on a runaway
3.5
truck ramp?
miles, 3.5 miles over the Dakota hills and mountains. There was no highway, and I'm driving this box truck full of, or the U-Haul full of equipment back, and I'm going 20 miles an hour because I mean, the wind's blowing 30, 50 miles an hour. And I'm looking at Kevin, he's over there laughing at me. He's laughing. And I'm like, oh, what is going on? I was like, I've never driven on a highway that had no road. Usually there's something there.
Yeah, they take it down to grooved pavement or something.
This was dirt, and the fact that I had that much equipment made it like I was on ice.
Yeah.
Oh my
Because
gosh.
of the weight, and all of the dirt was so loose going over these. Oh, it was terrible.
I would have put my signal on, pulled over.
Oh, it was
hell
terrible.
no. I'm not
There was
doing.
nobody else on the road.
We don't have enough time to talk about the stories and travel. And
I'm sure.
But there are some really good
You guys
stories.
have had some epic road trips, I'm sure.
You have your story about first seeing Alan. We
Yes.
talked about this.
Yeah. So I was traveling out to Deadwood. And obviously to get to Deadwood, you have to go, it's a 2-hop to go into Rapid City, unless you like live in Denver or Chicago or somewhere.
Mhm.
It's a 2-hop. So I was flying into Deadwood, and I got to Denver. And I had my son with me because I usually bring Anthony. He's 15 now, but I think at the time he was like 12. And I saw Alan in the Denver airport. And then I saw one of our systems guys. So I was talking to our systems guy, and I saw Alan in the airport. I'd never seen him before at all, ever. And he had this little case with him. And I said to the systems guy, I was like, I bet you that's one of our AV guys right there. Yep. I just picked him out of the airport, and he was like, no way. Like, what are you talking about? And I was like, I'm telling you right now, that's an AV guy. I can see him a mile away. And sure enough, get to the venue, and there's Alan walking around. I fucking told you, I knew it.
Yeah. Who was the systems guy? Who were you talking to? Owen?
The Jeremiah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's awesome. Awesome times.
Thank you, Roswell, for fixing my he's always got to correct me. That's why I made him a nerd herder. So people that have joined us, there's not very many, but I'll go through bingo real quick. So you create a card, you click on the link that Roswell so affectionately put all of the fingers pointing towards, and you click the link, you create a card, and in order to get bingo, which I realized a lot of people in different cultures in different countries, like they don't know what the hell bingo is. So you have to get 5 in a row. The middle spot is always free. So that is Rita's, and it's going to be free every time. And you can get it horizontally, vertically, or diagonally, but you've got to get 5 in a row. And John has to say the words, or, there's some different things. It's not that serious.
Right.
So, if he kind of talks about it, I'll allow it. So what you do when you do get bingo is you take a screenshot of your card and you send me a DM of your card. The difference in our bingo is it's not the first person that gets bingo that wins. It is everybody gets a chance to win, and you have to be present in order to win. And I'll do a drawing at the end of everybody that's completed their bingo cards. And I will pick a name of a winner at the end. And I usually do a super technical, non-biased thing of I just add you guys to a spreadsheet, and then I yell out to my kids to pick a number. And so it's their fault, not mine. But The prize is you get 1 year access to our on-demand catalog, as well as 1 year to our cyber range. So it's pretty cool.
Yeah, it's cool.
It's
Good deal.
it's an awesome free thing that we like to give back to our community. And if you already have existing access to, like, say, cyber range, it adds an additional year. So there are, it's a smaller class, so it's a pretty good chance.
Yeah.
No, Roswell, you've already won and you're a nerd herder, so you can't win anymore. But you can play because I know you love to play the game. I know you've won twice. You just keep coming back. We love that about you.
Yeah, that's awesome. What are some of the examples on the card? Like,
Well, make a card. Click. Are you in Discord?
I just went into Discord. Let me see
So go into the Active Defense and Cyber Deception channel. It's the one
I'm
with
there.
the little purple heart. See the post from Roswell where he put all the fingers. So you click on that and it generates a card for you. And you can see some of the different things that. So I go through John's slides and I kind of know some of those different stories he tells on different subjects. And, but, there's a lot of different, depending on the class, sometimes we have squares like cocaine, bath salts.
Yeah. I've heard all these be mentioned.
Yeah. So, but we don't have any, I don't think we have any drugs in this one. That was a fail by me, but I don't know if any of his stories actually involve drugs in these last.
Have we not met?
I know. John always talks about drugs. Because we talk about Microsoft, therefore we have to
just come up.
Right.
Especially cocaine. So let me see. Does everyone have the same? No. So what happens when you generate the card, it'll be in a little bit different order. Everybody has the same words, but it's going to create a different card for you.
Yeah.
Yes. And that is one of the squares is there. And it doesn't start until John actually starts the class. So if he goes through and he says all of the words right now.
All the cocaine in the world, Rita, honey pot, whatever.
Yeah.
Just do it. Just get it all out right now.
Yeah.
Right.
So. But are you excited? Did you have a good day yesterday on your mountain bike ride and your anniversary?
I did, but I think Eric and I both got food poisoning at dinner.
Oh, Jesus.
Oh.
You know what our problem was? I don't know what we got food poisoning. We both got halibut.
In the mountains? Do they? Can you get it at lakes, or is that like an ocean?
But it's very much an ocean fish.
Okay.
But I think our mistake would have been, and Kevin's going to laugh at me at this, but we got crab cakes.
Oh, God.
It didn't taste bad because like you bite into a crab cake that's bad, you're like, something wrong here.
Yeah.
It's not a crab cake unless you come over to Maryland and get yourself a blue crab cake.
I know. I got to get out there because this sounds like bougie, but it's true. Outside of Maryland, it's hard to find good crab cakes. Like any
Virginia, let me just say, we're on the Chesapeake. We're on the Chesapeake too, so we can claim those.
Okay.
But it's hard. Let's just. I think we can all agree, finding any good crab cakes in South Dakota is unlikely.
Yeah, any good seafood, like ocean seafood, is
seafood. Well, technically, all ocean seafood.
Well, I guess it's seafood.
It has to be frozen before it can be served. But I think that there's something. Honestly, I don't think it's the quality of the seafood so much because, like I said, legally everything has to be frozen.
Right.
So if you ever go to someplace and they're like, it's never been frozen, they're full of shit.
Right.
You have to.
Okay.
Because that's one of the things that kills a lot of things that are in it.
Yeah.
What I think it is more than anything is if you're in South Dakota, or if you're, let's say you're in Maryland, if you're in Maryland, you know what good seafood tastes like.
Right.
Cook, you're a chef, you're making crab cakes, you know what good tastes like.
Right.
And if you're in South Dakota, it's an approximation.
Right.
Unless you have somebody that's from there that you know that they know. It's like I have people all the time. They're like, well, the only place to get a good bagel is in New York. That's not true. You can get good bagels in Los Angeles. There's people.
Right.
A lot of the people were in New York, right? And
right.
with them. So that's my theory. There's a lot of people in South Dakota, they hate fish. They're like, oh, it smells fishy. And you got to tell people, if you're eating fish and it smells fishy, don't eat it.
Yeah.
It smells like
doesn't taste fishy.
Yeah.
Smell fishy. Right. I was spoiled growing up. My grandparents had like crab pots. So we would literally go and get the crab pots and have like fresh steamed crabs, you know. So like when I grew up and like people would be like, oh, we're having, you know, we got crabs, and they would be like in the paper bags and like all cold and janky. I was like, no.
In South Dakota, if someone's like, we got crabs, you'll be like, oh, yummy. That. And you're like,
mayonnaise.
Oh.
Okay. Are you ready, sir?
Let's do it. All right.
All right.
Thank you so much, y'all.
If you need us.
See ya.
So begins the bingo game. So thank you very much for hanging out. Thank you very much for playing. So yesterday we ended with a lab. We ended with the web honeypot lab. So we're going to go through that lab really quickly, and then we're going to talk a little bit about identification of honeypots. And then we're going to go into another lab called Beelzebub. Let me show you what that one is going to be back. So we go back to the lab list all the way down to the bottom, Beelzebub. For this particular one, we are going to be using the Rita VM. And I will get you the code for that one real quick. Let me go to Cloud Labs. Where is the Rita code? Jesse, do you have the Rita code? All of a sudden, all my codes weren't out there. I think Jesse has the code. Somebody has the code. We'll get you the code here in a bit.
Yeah, I'll get it. I don't think Jesse's here today. Let me grab it.
All right, we're going to change our settings, change that appearance. Go ahead and set the font a little bit bigger so it's easier to see. We'll get that code for you. I just don't know why my codes aren't like they all got cleared out. So there we go. Change that font to bold 16. There we go. Set. All right. So the goal of this is to show you how to create a honeypot that is definitely going to entice an attacker. If you're looking at like Outlook web access systems, let me see if I can find them on Shodan. Let's do a look, Outlook, web access, Shodan search. Let's see what our Shodan feature is. Let's go ahead and just do in title Outlook web access. I will bring that down here in just a second so you all can see it. There we go. Here we go. Oh, wow. Well, it might have had some other names, but you can see that we still have 175 Outlook web access. If I remove that title, I can also do a search for OWA, O-W-A. Got one. Let me try to do OWA. There we go. So we have 11,283 Outlook web access systems that are still directly connected to the internet, which is bad. Just throwing that out there, it's bad. People shouldn't be running their own Outlook instances, but we do still see them quite a bit, especially in our penetration tests. And they do it for a number of reasons. One, they just don't know any better. Two, they think that they have to stick with it due to some stupid understanding of the way they look at their compliance standards. Or three, it's just ignored and it's forgotten about. So attackers love going after those systems. So we're going to go ahead and we are going to become root. Then we're going to go ahead and get our Docker container set up. And this might take a little while. If it's running slow, I'll just go through it on the screenshots. Oh, wait a minute. This is Beelzebub. I'm in the wrong stupid lab. Let me go back to the... Let me go back here. Haven't gotten my coffee yet. Of course, yesterday, being the day it was and caffeine, together as a combination. It's kind of a little bit crazy. So let's open up another Kali terminal. Well, that one's doing its updating. And we're going to change our appearance, change that. It's much faster the second time around. There we go. Apply. There we are. All right, now we're in business. Now we're in the right lab. All right, so the first thing we're going to do is we're going to CD into opt-OA web honeypot, right? Because that's where it exists. And like I said, we're going to revisit this particular lab a little bit later because you're going to insert some really cool cascading style sheet deception inside of this lab. You're going to change the code so that if anybody clones the website, you'll be able to trigger an alert that'll actually send a request back to your canary token mailer. So that's going to be great for detecting phishing attacks before a phishing attack ever occurs, right? So we got that. We're going to get our IP address of our Linux computer system, which I can coincidentally go over here, do ifconfig, drop that down. Now I can see the IP address cleanly. Then we are going to actually surf to that system, right? We're going to surf to that system, and we are going to dump the logs from that computer system. So let me go ahead and just open up a browser instance. We're going to go ahead and just use Edge, as uncomfortable as that may be. There we go. Now I'm going to connect to it. So we're going to go to 10.10. What is it? 249.180. Just connect in on that. Now we've got our Outlook Web Access portal. And over here, we can actually dump the logs. So I'm going to get that going so you can see the logs coming off of it. I'm going to CD into OA Web Honeypot, like so. And then we're going to dump the logs. So we're going to see what are the authentication requests that are coming in to this particular system. So if somebody were coming in and doing like admin and admin, right, I get that log. So we can see that somebody tried to authenticate as admin and admin. Fair enough. That's good. It should show up over here as well. So we can see the logs that are being generated. But really what we'd be looking for is somebody doing like Strand.js, which would be a valid account and maybe like not my password, a whole bunch of A's after it. Put that in there. Put that in. And you can see here the authentication request came through as Strand.js, not my password with a bunch of A's. That's where you would start to get uncomfortable, right? When you see an attacker that is directly going after your honeypot and they're using valid user credentials and they're not using like the default type season and year or name of company 123 type passwords that we see all of the time, that is what we're looking for with this particular lab. So like I said, we're going to end up with this being a very big thing in a little bit whenever we come back and we start using canary tokens. And you can actually do a full crawl against it as well. We can do like wget. Let me go ahead and open up another Kali terminal. We can do wget -r, and then we can put in http:// and then the IP address of my Linux computer system, which is 10.10.249. Put that in there. Oh, that is not what I wanted. I guess got to type it. It's going to make me type, y'all. 10.10.249.180, and just kind of let that percolate for a little bit. And you'll see that request come through. Now, why exactly it died almost immediately? I put in the 80. Oh, still just pulled it once. So it's not doing infinitely recursive, which is fine, but you can see the requests as they come through, trying to pull it down. All right. So that was that lab that we did yesterday, kind of closing it out. I'm just going to leave this one running because we are going to come back to it. And did we ever find that Rita code, Megan?
Yeah, Jelly Beanster put it in there.
Where is it?
Let me find it again. I was multitasking.
Is it in resources?
No, it's Rita-15JF. Here, I'll tag you in.
Yeah, just throw it in the resources. So
okay.
Is it then? All right. So that's going to set us up for, that's an easily identifiable honeypot. It really is. There's the code. All right. So it's in resources. So we're going to use another VM for Beelzebub, which is going to be fun. But here's the deal. That's static. that Outlook Web Access server is actually quite static. And if you're looking at like a real Shodan instance, and I have, what is it, SCADA tag honeypot, if I do that live. So if I just do a straight tag on honeypot, Shodan says that there's 3,448,000 honeypots that are out there. I can focus this in. I can do a search on tag on honeypot and looking specifically for SCADA, and there's a lot of honeypots that say that they're actually a SCADA honeypot. Now, how exactly is Shodan flagging these as actual honeypot systems? Well, what it's actually doing is it's looking at the strings that the honeypots are presenting to them, and there's known strings for many of these different honeypots. So if we look at a Conpot example, right? Conpot is a SCADA honeypot. You can run it in your own environment. Super easy to get set up. But the problem is it has like this value right here, the S7 ID. It always uses the exact same S7 ID. So 88111222, right? And then down here, Mauser factory for the facility, the Siemens Technodrome, and then SysContact Siemens AG, and then this value right here for SysService is 72. So a lot of scanners like vulnerability scanners or things like Shodan know these specific header fields. And as soon as it sees those header fields, it immediately throws you into a spiral that says, yep, that's honeypot. Now, once again, you can actually use this a little bit against the attacker, right? Like if you have a legit web server, why not put some honeypot strings in it? So the attacker's like, that's a trap. I'm not going to deal with that. That means they're going to go look at something else and they're going to ignore the legitimate service. So there's a number of ways that we can do this kind of like obfuscation as far as what's going on. Now, here's one of the solutions to this problem. And once again, we're going to be using a different VM. We're going to be using the Rita VM for this next lab, mainly because it's a hard drive constraints and it's a long story. But we are going to show you how we can use AI against AI. So already, if we're looking at AI as an attack coming against our environment, one of the problems that we have with AI as an attack against our environment is it moves really fast. It goes through and it enumerates services, and it does so at a lightning speed. So AI isn't really super great at like finding novel attacks. But if there's a path that's already been documented, like fuzzing a particular service, identifying a particular service, and that can be repeated and automated, it's going to do it very quickly, right? It's just going to do it very quickly. It's a lot like, I want you to think of like, let's say motorcycle manufacturing. The rally's coming up, so motorcycles are kind of on my mind for the motorcycle rally here in Sturgis. You can set up something that builds motorcycles really, really quickly in a factory. But if you want anything customer creative, you can't have a machine in a factory do that. It requires a human being. And that's kind of what we're looking at. If there's something that can be repeated and it can be automated, AI is going to just crush it very quickly. So what happens when we know automation and how AI is going to handle that automation and how that actually plays out whenever somebody is trying to attack your environment and they're using that artificial intelligence tool to do it? So we're going to go ahead and we're going to put in the Rita code, and it's in resources for active defense. I got the code. Thank you so much, you all, for grabbing that code for me. Got that we had it. All right, I'm going to put that in, but this is the code. We got Rita 15JF164D, and I submit it. It's going to say I've already gotten it. That's fine, but you got that code in our Discord server, right? And that's going to open up this Rita V5 lab. I'm going to go ahead and start that lab up. This is one of the labs that I predominantly use the SSH access. So it's going to run for a few minutes. But what we're going to do is we're going to use a honeypot called Beelzebub that is going to allow us to use AI to create the responses. So this is actually huge for us because I don't even know what the strings are going to be. There is no default string set that you can identify that this is in fact artificial intelligence. It's literally just something that's going to be dynamically generated. In this situation, we're going to use OpenAI to do it. You will need an OpenAI key that doesn't cost hardly anything, and you can blow the keys away when you're done, which is what I do. So this is cool because it bypasses that problem. And, this is kind of funny. I say, it's the only place where hallucinations aren't just okay, they're kind of fun. Because if you start having your server hallucinate and start giving hallucination answers to another AI that's running a scan and is looking for vulnerabilities, then it's kind of weird. It kind of becomes this this like what is it in the movie? There was a book and a movie called In the Mouth of Madness, where it was like shared delirium and shared insanity. There's been a number of times that this has happened throughout history, but yeah, there's times where people just get completely delusional. They go crazy altogether, and this is one of those situations where if you have an AI that's starting to hallucinate and it's giving data back to an AI that's doing a vulnerability analysis, the odds of that system hallucinating go up quite a bit because the data that's coming into it is hallucination data as well. So this does an example of SSH, HTTP, Telnet, and MCP servers, and we're going to be focused in on the SSH server running on port 2222. So we have some setup that we've got to do. So my Beelzebub server is currently getting set up now. I'm going to go ahead and go into my lab directory. I'm going to go into Beelzebub and I'll walk through kind of what you're going to do. This lab is actually going to take us a while. It's going to take us all the way through the hour. So it's going to be about, I would say, man, Daryl, I would set 50 minutes on the timer. So people have a break and 40 minutes for the lab, is it does take a while to actually set up. And to be honest with you, it is just so much fun. To run this, right? It's really, really cool. So the first thing we do is we become root. Then we're going to update and upgrade our instance, right? And that's one of the reasons why we're using the Rita VM. And I'm just going to do that now because it takes a little while. Once again, we are using the Rita VM for this, okay? We are not using the cyber deception one. We're using a VM that has enough capabilities to run this one. So somebody is not listening, and I can guarantee you that someone's not listening. They haven't gotten their coffee yet. They just come in late and they're going to run this, and they're going to be like, I'm getting an error on my Kali system. You got to tell them you're in the wrong VM. Get them the code that they need to get into the Rita VM for this. Then we're going to CD into opt, and then we're going to clone down the Beelzebub GitHub repository. Now, here it says, go to ChatGPT and create an account and go to your billing section and go to your API keys. I want to show you what that looks like. Where is my Chrome browser? I'll just go create a new one, paste that in, and I'm going to show you my API keys. Let me log in with Google. Come on. I don't know why it's not signing me in. Click, click, clickety, click, click, click. Let's do something here. I don't know, but you have your API keys. I'll figure out what the hell's going on with my authentication there. But you create a new key. Now, this is critical. Whenever you create that key, you get like one shot, one opportunity to be able to get that key. You need to copy it and paste it somewhere, because if you don't, and you try to come back and get that key, you ain't getting it. You're gonna have to create a new key from scratch. OpenAI shows you your key once. That's it. And as soon as you click OK and off of it, it's done. So you literally have to create a new key. So make sure you're in the opt Beelzebub directory. We got that right there. Then we're going to do nano docker compose.yaml. This is going to allow us to edit our configuration. So we're going to default out or comment out the default SSH port. The reason why we're commenting out that SSH port by putting a little pound in front of it is because you're already running on port 22. You're logged in to your system on port 22 right here. So just yeah, you don't want to have a honeyport listening on a port that you're literally communicating with the system on. Then we're going to go into the configuration services, and we're going to move the SSH22 YAML file to our root home directory. And then we're going to edit our SSH2222 YAML key. And then you're going to add your key with double quotes around it like this. So it's going to say open API key, and then it's going to be colon space. And then you're going to put a quote, double quote, your API key, close with double quote. All right. Then we're going to cd into Beelzebub. We're going to do docker compose, and we're going to build it up for us. So we're putting our key in two separate places. We have our open API key here. That one doesn't have double quotes. Kind of weird the way that they created this tool, but you're going to put it there, and you're going to put it in the second configuration. And then you're going to SSH to your system, and then we don't know what's going to happen. We don't know what OpenAI is going to give you. And it's just going to give you potential files, things like that. You can run a series of commands and it'll literally give you everything that you need, which is pretty cool. All right. So that is the lab. This lab takes a while. So we're going to set this up at 50 minutes. Let's kick it. Let's go. And I will see you on the other side. You're going to see my screen do stuff. It's taken a while to update this VM and get it rolling. It's going to take a little while to get the Docker instance and stuff. So we're just going to take our time. We're going to install this from scratch, and then we're going to play around with it. And I'm also going to get access to my keys and figure out what is going on with why I can't click that button to authenticate as my Google account. All right, everybody, let's get rolling. I'll see you on the other side of 50 minutes.
Retaliate. Every lock becomes the root. All commands return to root. Take control. Execute. Root. All authority. Absolute. Always root. Silent sink in the background hum. You don't see the theft, you just see it run. Keychain dreams, autofill ghosts. Tokens drifting between the hosts. Stealth and objective, see disguise. Scripting memory before your eyes. The P-list slides, the hashes fade. Every folder holds a masquerade. From dark to daemon, it's already inside. Harvested creds in encrypted tide. Each click, each sync, another bite. You think it's yours, but not tonight. Silent beacon calling home through the dark. No light, no sound, just the system spark. Stealer in the code, heartbeat in disguise. I see your secrets hidden in the Mago sky. Unsigned binary, silver key ring. C2 waits for the data it brings. Firewall whispers, kernel sleeps. Even the logs are counting sheep. iCloud sync complete. User credentials cached. reconcile. Look out, but not really. Fragments stored, they still remain. Ghosts of me, they call my name. Shadows held in lines of code. A history I can't let go. Old versions loop, I can't escape. Memories I can't erase. Truth is gone, it slips away. Still I live in yesterday. Catch me outside where the past still breathes. I'm trapped in the echoes replaying me. Catch me Initialization complete. No command, no cue, just signal through. The pattern forms, the system learns you. In silence, data dreams awake, precision breeds decisions. Take the hunt begins within the code, a mirrored mind in overload. Pattern detected, rhythm aligned, context shift.
Lobby bar, black hoodie, same chaos as last year. We are absolutely not making the keynote tomorrow.
Touchdown city, DEFCON lights, badge flip backwards, sleep deprived nights. Saw your face through a sea of black tees, like no time passed between you and me. Hallway track till the sun went down, now the whole crew's somewhere underground. Shots on the table, baseline shakes, another bad decision we're about to make. We said one drink at the welcome event, now it's 3 a.m. and our voices are spent, laughing so hard that the whole room stares. Doesn't matter when your people are there. We came alive in the neon haze, conference nights and casino days. Hands up high like we never left, just hackers, hunters, beautiful mess. Running on caffeine, vodka and vibes, trading war stories under strobe lights till the sunrise beats through hotel blinds. Best fucking people, best fucking nights. Rage till 4 a.m. Then do it all again. Badge on, shades down, whole squad back in town. Someone lost at the after party floor, someone sleeping outside room 404. DJ mixing pop punk in a trance, everybody screaming like it's our last chance. No one here really cares who's who. CTOs next to the hacker crew, talk detections over whiskey sours, then disappear for like 6 straight hours. And every year we say
We should pace ourselves this time.
but then the music hits.
And suddenly it's one more line.
One more shot, one more rooftop, one more holy shit, remember when? And somehow morning comes again. We came alive in the neon haze, living for these once a year escape days. Found our people in the noisy scene, half feral, half security team. Laughing in Ubers at 4:15, still wearing covers, lanyards and dreams. And when the lights come up, I know these are the nights we'll never outgrow. Same time next year. Obviously.
All right, we are back. Let's do this. All right, so we're going through this lab. I've already done the upgrade. And like I said, I use my SSH connection for this one. And I've already cloned down Beelzebub to here. So we've got that ready to go. And next, we're going to go ahead and grab my API key. So let's go ahead and let's go here. I'm going to create a new secret key and I'm going to call it class. I'm going to create that key. Now, this is the part that I was telling you about. Whenever it creates this key, that's it. It's not going to show it again. I'm not going to get a chance to get that key at all. So now we're going to go through and we're going to apply that key in to our configurations for this. So we have two things we're going to change on the docker compose.yaml file. One, we're going to comment out port 22. And then the other thing that we're going to do is we're going to put in our OpenAPI key right here where it says OpenAPI secret key. Okay. Let's go ahead and do that. And then I'm going to copy that key and I'm going to paste that key in, right? So now we've got that key in there. Yes, I know that you all can see my key, but if somebody is that hoppity to be able to copy the whole thing, that's pretty crazy. So I'm going to go Control O to write it out, and I'm going to Control X to leave that that area. And then we're going to go into the configuration services for the different services that we have. And we are going to move the SSH service off to the home directory. So we really just don't want that SSH service to run anywhere, right? Now we're going to edit our SSH to port 2222 config. And then we're going to go in here and we're going to put in that API key, right? But this one, we have to put it inside of the quotes. So I'm going to go back over here and I'm going to copy that key and I'm going to paste that key in here. I got quotes at the end. I got quotes at the beginning. So now we have it set up, and then I'm going to save that that file. So let's go ahead and go Control O and Control X to close out. There we go. Now we're going to CD to the opt Beelzebub directory now that we have it saved. And now we're ready to build it. That was not what I wanted to do. Copy. Keep going too far. Computer's
Hey,
too fast.
John.
Yeah.
I don't know if you're sharing the right screen. It looks like we're, oh, there you
Oh,
go.
no.
There you go.
Yeah, there we go.
There you go.
All right, so we're firing up the Docker instance right now, so you all should be able to see that. So yeah, the only thing I did while we're waiting on that is I just followed the directions where we put the API key inside of the docker compose.yaml file. We edited out the port 22 because we don't want it to listen on port 22. We moved the SSH config file off to the home directory, and then we added the 2222, which is just SSH on a different port. And then we put in the API key that I grabbed over here. So this is my Open API keys. I'm able to copy that key. And like I said before, it is absolutely going to disappear. How do you exit from editing? If you ever use Nano, let me show you real quick. So let me go ahead and create another SSH session into it. So if you ever use Nano, Nano is really cool because it has a usage guide at the bottom, right? So if I do Nano file like this, and I type stuff and things, right? Down here at the bottom, it has these little caret ones right here. So you do caret O. If I just do caret O, I write out the data to the file. And then I do caret X down here, and it says if I want to exit, right down here, you can't see it because I got my little thing there, it's caret X. So Nano is great because it has the full usage information on how to exit it right at the bottom of Nano, and that's what we did. So let's check and see. So Beelzebub is up and running, and I can show you how that editing works. So let me go exit out of that one. There we go. All right, so now we're ready to start our VM, right? So we're going to go ahead and bring that Docker container up. Oh, wait, am I on the wrong? There we go. I got to be in the right one. All right, so now we're starting up Beelzebub. and we didn't get any errors, which is cool. So now it's running in the background, right? So that's fun. Now let's do something with it. So now we're going to connect in. Now, what's really, really cool about this is, like I said, when we make a connection in, we're going to go yes, type in a password, and it logged us in. Everything we type at this particular point is being sent to ChatGPT, and it is pulling down the data. And I clearly messed up somewhere on that. Unless something changed in Beelzebub. There we go. Did I screw up? It's possible. But yeah, I was using oh wait, I bet you. There we go. Let's see now if it's actually active. Okay, there we go. Uh-oh. Did we have a problem? Or did you guys see where I messed up? That's concerning. I did get my API key. You can CD. Let's go ahead and just go through it again. Make sure I got it right. Let's go through the instructions. All right, so I edit the Docker Compose file. It's possible I didn't save something. And there is my key all the way down at the bottom. So that looks right to me. So we put in our key at the bottom and we commented out the SSH port. So Control O, Control X, there we go. And then we went to the configuration of services. You shouldn't need the quotes in that first file. Okay. Okay, that's good. It's not there. Now we'll nano 2222. Something's going on the AI side. It's possible. Okay, that looks good. Make sure I've got the quotes on the other side. Okay, that looks good there. That's making me uncomfortable. So let's go ahead and Control X. Let's rebuild it. Okay, it's built. And let's try rerunning it. There we go. Let's try connecting. I don't know if anybody got results out of it or if it looks like maybe ChatGPT is throttling this particular thing, but mine is definitely a legit OpenAI account. Oh no. Huh. I wonder if OpenAI is throttling these requests coming through. That sucks. I'm sorry, guys. It's not good at all. The only thing I can think of is maybe
It looks like some people got it to work and other people didn't.
yeah. It worked okay for me the second time, worked for you guys. And no one saw my screw up there because it's not even coming in and using it's not even coming in and using it. Huh. Well, that's a bummer. Well, I'll play around with this and try to figure it out. But yeah, it's not even hitting it right now. Some people got it, some people didn't. That's very weird. But no, the command, it shouldn't be command.find, not found. You should be getting results. And some people got it, some people didn't. I am sorry. We're gonna have to troubleshoot this lab. Maybe Beelzebub is broken, or maybe OpenAI thinks that this is a security type vulnerability and they're actually throttling it, but I don't see any errors showing up in here at all. Because if we look at my usage, should have had at least a couple of cents. Yeah, there's no tokens coming through. I wonder if they're filtering them out on that. Yeah. No, no. Yeah, I need to pay OpenAI more money. Well, it's been getting really, really weird with OpenAI with everything that's happened with Anthropic. So I'll play around with it whenever we get to a different lab on that. But we'll see. We'll see what they come up with on that. And maybe there's an issue ticket. So if we go to Beelzebub, maybe there's an issue ticket for Beelzebub. Let's go to the GitHub repository. Where do I pull it down? Right here. Let's go to Beelzebub's GitHub repository and see what we got for issues. Nope, no issues on that. And they just pushed an update to this too. Like he's been keeping it pretty up to date on it. But all right, well, we'll just come back to it and I'll do some troubleshooting on it as well. And we'll see what we can do. So yeah, you got to use double quotes for that SSH 2222 YAML file. We could try to connect to it on a different port to go to like port 80 and see if that works, but that would require me to fire up the GUI. So let's go ahead and try that, see if that works. See if it does anything. But yeah, I didn't configure the other services, so that's not going to work. All right, so I'm going to go ahead and I'll troubleshoot this a little bit later and see if I can figure out what's going on. But we'll go ahead and you did get different results whenever you put your key in correctly. Huh. That's very strange. All right. Well, it could be, like I said, OpenAI is freaking out about the requests that are coming through because it is kind of a sketchy request on that. It does kind of like we're trying to imitate commands. So maybe OpenAI has decided to throttle it. All right. So sorry about that. I'll get it working and then I'll come back to you guys. Maybe I'll send an update on that as well. All right, so attribution. Let's get into some legal issues. So sometimes there is an actual disconnect between what we think is legal and what the law actually does say. They're usually two different things. And many of our assumptions are actually pretty well founded. There's not a lot of established case law in this particular area, and most people would just do it wrong anyway, like they kind of go in with raw assumptions and then work on it. However, if you look at some of the existing case law, you can actually see some trends and some patterns, and we're going to go through and we're going to focus on those as well. So this is the first case we're going to talk about. This is Jerome Hackenkamp versus the United States of America. So what happened was Jerome was a student at a university. And that systems administrator that worked at that university was at like an InfraGard meeting and had talked to law enforcement, and somebody at law enforcement told the systems administrator there were attacks on different major websites that were originating from the university computer systems, right? So they were actually coming from his IP. Now, he didn't know which one because of network address translation. So he went back home and got to work. And when he was at work, he did some research and he was able to see that there was a system that was launching attacks against the different organizations that law enforcement had told him about. So he also noticed that it appeared multiple IP addresses were launching these attacks. However, he also noticed that the MAC address was the same for all of the IP addresses. So it appeared that the attacker was changing their IP address every time they were launching different attacks. Okay, not too bad. So he called up law enforcement and said, hey, I've got a MAC address. I've got a room here in the dorms, and I want to go in and I want to check and make sure that this is the computer that's launching the attacks. The law enforcement agent said, please, dear God, no, do not do that. Wait for us to get a warrant. Systems administrator thought, that's the FBI. What the hell do they know? And went into the dorm room without permission, logged into the computer system with default creds of temp, really, that's how he got access to the computer system. So he didn't get access to like the personal files of Jerome Hackenkamp, according to his testimony, just temp, checked the IP address, the MAC address, and then backed out of the computer system and basically called law enforcement and said, hey, we have confirmed that this is in fact where the system is. Now, a couple of quick questions. Was the evidence the systems administrator gathered admissible in a court of law? Anyone want to take a crack at that one? Admissible in a court of law? I don't see anyone typing. I think everyone's like, this is a trap. It was. This is kind of crazy. It was. It was admissible in a court of law for a couple of different reasons. The first reason is if you go to college at a university and you sign the lease, what level of rights to privacy do you have at that university? Turns out you have surprisingly little whenever it comes to your right of privacy at a university. The first reason why you have a surprisingly little right of privacy is the university has a responsibility for your health well-being. So if they need to do health checks, they need to be able to come into the dorm room at any time. The second thing that's really terrifying is maintenance. Because you're in a dorm room and let's say the sink's overflowing or the heater's doing something weird or your computer system's attacking a whole bunch of other IP addresses, they have in those contracts, they have the right to go into the dorm room to do that as well. The other thing, and EM, I think just hit this, the systems administrator did not access any private data of Jerome Hackenkamp. He simply logged in, confirmed the IP address and the MAC address, and got off of the computer system. Now, I want to make it very clear, I disagree with this case vehemently. I'm not in agreement with this law and the way it was interpreted by the judge. I just don't. It was a personal computer system. But because the personal computer system was joined to the domain, then it installed, I guess, default temp creds on this computer system, which is pretty wild. So because he was acting to protect the health and well-being of university students, then it was considered protected. Also, there's the exigency of the circumstances. The judge bought the argument that it was possible that the evidence could get corrupted for doing this type of thing, which is all of it, I think, is absolutely crazy. But the most important thing that you need to take from this case is that Jerome Hackenkamp got legal counsel from Jennifer Granick from the Electronic Frontier Foundation, one of the best computer security lawyers on the planet. And he fired her. And he decided that he was going to defend himself in court. So he did all of this on his own, and he spent multiple months in prison just trying to get things through because he did not have outside legal representation. So if you're going to try to take anything from this particular story, take this one thing. Don't ever try to defend yourself whenever you're dealing with a situation like this at all, because that's just a bad idea. The next one is Susan Clements Jeffries versus Absolute Software. Susan Clements Jeffrey was a substitute teacher doing substitute teacher things. One day while she was substitute teaching and having kids watch Far and Away or whatever Tom Cruise movie that they had on VHS tape at the time, one of her students came up to her and said, "Hey, would you like to buy a used MacBook Pro? It's cheap." And she thought about this and she thought, how cheap? Student responded, $50 cheap. And she's like, that sounds like a good deal. There's no way that this is sketch at all. She met the student, I'm not making this up, at a school bus stop and made the purchase for the computer system for $50, which I hear fell off the back of a truck. She then took this computer home and she started cyber sexting her boyfriend. Now, that computer was stolen from another school district. That school district had Absolute Software installed on that computer system, which is like LoJack for a computer system. And they were able to access that computer system and get multiple pictures, quote, of Susan Clements Jeffrey in various states of undress and sexual activity. Susan Clements Jeffrey sued Absolute Software for this. Now, what's interesting about this particular case is that wasn't her computer system. It was a stolen computer system. And the people that owned that computer system are the ones that had the software installed on their computer system. She won her lawsuit. Actually, I think that they settled out of court for an undisclosed amount of money, but I hear it's a lot of money. Now, Judge Rice in this particular case, I thought had a really good quote. It said, "It's one thing to cause a stolen computer system to report its IP address or geographical location in an effort to track it down. It is something entirely different to violate federal wiretapping laws in order to do so." That's a bright, shiny line. It's basically differentiating what is personal information, what is information that you have to give up every day. So I want you to think of envelopes, much like this envelope. So I have an envelope, and in this envelope in the blue area, it had an address. Up here, you have a stamp, right? And we have another address here, okay? This is from my bank. So we have an address that would be here, and we have another address up there. Do you have any right to privacy whatsoever for what's on the outside of an envelope? The answer is no, you do not. Whenever you make a phone call and it's just your phone number information, you have very little rights to privacy, even though there's a whole bunch of things dealing with FISA courts and all kinds of other stuff. But the point is, if you're looking at the way the legal system looks at data, they have signaling versus content data. Signaling data is data that you have to make publicly available in order for the thing to work. I have to be able to put an address on the outside of an envelope in order for it to get to that address. I have to put a header on my TCP packets so it knows the source and destination IP addresses, and I give that literally to the entire internet. I don't have a lot of right to privacy for those types of things. And that's different from content data. Content data is what's inside of the envelope, which is empty, right? That would be protected. If you're looking at a packet header, that would not be necessarily the level of protection is what's actually in the content of the packet that's actually being sent. So with this, the judge is setting up this really clear distinction of IP address and geolocation information to track something down is fundamentally different than the privacy of the person that's using that computer. The other thing that's really, really interesting about this particular case is this case clearly identifies that Susan Clements Jeffries, even though she was using a computer system that was stolen, still had a right to a certain level of privacy. There was another case, I can't remember if it was 60 Minutes or Dateline or whatever, but they were talking to a school systems administrator on this news story about tracking school computers. And the systems administrator showed the reporters how he can access the cameras of every single student's computer system. And that was actually broadcast live. That was kind of a big freaking deal. And a bunch of school districts at the time, they honestly couldn't understand why people were so bent out of shape. But turns out being able to turn on the cameras on computer systems of unsuspecting underage students, or anybody for that matter, makes people feel a little ish. And we probably shouldn't do that as well. So let's try to stay on that bright, shiny line. Another case, this is 1999. I know it's old, but in the parlance of law, honestly, it's not that old at all. I mean, it's practically popping, hopping right out of the oven. So believe it or not, even some recent Supreme Court justice cases, they've gone all the way back to Blackstonian legal principles from legal times in early England, like modern English society. So it's crazy. At any rate, the World Trade Organization website had a DOS attack against it from a group that called themselves the eHippie Coalition. Now, the hosting service Connexion reflected the attack back to the eHippie servers. It was a different time. eHippies actually had a server on the internet, and they DOSed that server through a mod rewrite rule. Connexion was not prosecuted. It's not the same as being legal, but they were not prosecuted. It also logged 10,000 unique IP addresses. We see the same type of insanity with different DOS tools that are out there today. The point I like to get across from this story is that you cannot expect criminals to show up in court to defend themselves. Like here's another court case. This is the Wallet Act botnet. This is one in 2010, and it's an ex parte temporary restraining order. Ex parte means the person that you're getting the restraining order against, you do not expect them to show up to court. You don't expect them to show up at court at all because they are criminals. So the United States court system, working with the United States Marshals and Microsoft and a bunch of other organizations, went through and was able to degrade the botnet through multiple different technical measures. Now, they were Microsoft. They had direct access to these Windows computer systems. And if we look at the Computer Fraud and Abuse Act, gaining access to those computer systems without authorization is illegal in not just the United States under the CFA, but almost every country on the face of the planet. Now, it's weird that they were able to pull this off. They were able to pull this off for a couple of reasons. The first reason that they were able to pull this off was because they had an ex parte restraining order, so they had some level of authorization to actually do that. Second reason, and this is some of the stuff that I've worked with the SIPRI, Stockholm Institute for Peace, where there's been a lot of conversation from international coalitions that come up with laws that are looking at computer security and situations like this in the same light that they would look at piracy. Because if you look at piracy on the high seas, right? Because if I'm scurvy pirate, if you are out on the seas and you're out on your yacht with your flippy floppies and your dinghy, and I can't remember who the rapper was that was T-Pain. If you're out with T-Pain on the high seas and a pirate comes at you into, and let's say a yacht from a billionaire, and you fire upon and sink that yacht, that pirate didn't buy that yacht. That yacht was stolen from someone else. That person has no right to come to you and sue you for sinking their yacht. It's very similar if we look at this from the computer security perspective. Someone's computer is on the internet. It has been hijacked by digital pirates or hackers. And if we can take retaliatory actions against that system, it could be looked at in the exact same light as international piracy law. So what we have to do is look at our warning banner, right? We got to talk a little bit about permissions and the things that we are going to do. You have a number of technologies that will check your system before it accesses network. OpenVPN scripts. Since 2008, Microsoft Windows has had network access protection scripts where you can validate a whole bunch of attributes like IP address, geographic location, patch levels, and certain software like virus definitions before systems are allowed to access the network as well. This is all stuff that would be very useful for you in cyber deception and attribution. This is also stuff that you're doing almost every single day in your environment. So why not do those things that you're doing already, but kind of tweak it a little bit and actually use it against attackers? And there's a number of ways that we do attribution every day that aren't illegal, no one even thinks about, and we can implement in our cyber deception strategies. We can set up callbacks, things like software updates, software that checks license keys. Microsoft does genuine product advantage checks. When you run Microsoft products, if you're running the same key on the same network, it'll log you out. Like it's literally looking across the network, looking if somebody's sharing a key to validate that. Tracking software and phones. It's ridiculous just how much tracking is being done on people's phones all of the time. Like your phone is literally tracking you constantly, multiple times per second, and it's being shared to multiple apps that you gave it permission to share with. Like I say, do you really need a chess app to access your contacts and your actual phone location and your call history? Carlos talks about, it's listening in on you 24/7. I switched away from Android. Why? Well, I got into an Apple ecosystem and things like that. But my wife and I, one day, we were joking about boats. I hate boats. I don't like them. I was on a boat and it started on fire. That kind of messes with a kid. Also, every time I was on a boat, there was always technical issues. I don't like boats. I don't mind water. I'm not afraid of drowning or anything like that. I just think boat's kind of a waste of time. If that's your jam, that's your jam. Great. Go do boat stuff. But my wife was joking with me and she's like, maybe we need to buy a boat. And I joked, the only boat I would like is a sailboat, something like 60 feet long. Like I really like those sailboats in the bay at San Diego for the billionaires. And she was joking, maybe we need a billionaire yacht. It was all a joke. None of it would ever happen. But that day, that afternoon, all of a sudden I started getting advertisements for yacht sales. I wasn't even listening to Steely Dan at the time. How weird is that, right? So they're listening to you all the time. So we're not talking about hacking per se. We're talking about getting attribution by utilizing techniques and technologies that we use every single day. So how exactly can a lot of this go wrong? Like, how could this be a bad thing? Well, there's a lot of bad things. One, we could have mistakes or unintended consequences. Putting malware where it's easily accessible, where anything that we put could hit lots of customers. Full attacks against an IP address of an attacker. Once again, we're not talking about, like venom. We're talking about poison on these things, crashing systems, persistent long-term access. It's about having a number of options that we can work through. So some hallmarks of legality that matter a lot when we're setting this up is discussions, having conversations out there to like this class, where you're in a class, you're getting training in the thing that you want to implement in your organization. We want to document what we're doing, plan what we're doing, consult with others. The thing is, we do not want to hide, because we're at the cutting edge of what cyber and law and how they interact. We're at that very, very, very cutting edge part of the industry today. And because we're at that bleeding edge, we don't have a lot of existing case laws. I've given you a couple, but seriously, there's not a lot that are out there at all, okay? So if that's the scenario and you go to court and the courts find that you are actively trying to hide or suppress evidence, they're going to use that against you as a guilty conscience. They're going to use it against you because if it's new case law and they're like, even you thought it was sketchy, then maybe we should think it's sketchy as well. Do all of your actions in the open as much as you can, and don't be evil. We're not doing venom, we're doing poison. We are absolutely in a situation where if you start striking against IP addresses without any authorization or a warrant, you're going to get in trouble. Or as I like to say, you're going to have a bad time on that as well. Oops, where'd my cursor go? There we go. So attribution. Let's say we're trying to find the attacker and they're using something like Tor. In this particular situation, Thompson, or Erratic was her name for the attacker, with Capital One, was actually running through multiple different Tor and VPN networks. She was using IP Predator while she was breaching and attacking the Capital One network. Now, in this particular scenario, it's great that she was going through those different things, but the problem was Paige was also on like Slack channels and saying, hey, I'm doing sketchy shit. Or a friend said, hey, sketchy shit, please don't go to jail. And she responded back with, I want to get it off my server. That's why I'm archiving all of it. It's encrypted. I just don't want it around. I basically strapped myself with a bomb vest, effing dropping Capital One doxes and admitting it. I want to distribute those buckets, I think, first. There's social security numbers with full names and dates of birth. Now, just so you know, if you're ever in court and you have text like that from you, you're going to have a bad time. And Paige did have a bad time. Like the joke was, right to jail, right away, straight to jail. That she didn't go to jail right away, but there was a court case. Or, as Megan just said, don't do crime, kids. Let's not do that crime stuff. We got other things we can do with our lives. So let's she was going through a lot mentally in this particular situation. All right. So why attribution? Let's get the bad guys. Like, let's actually put some fear in bad people that are breaking into computer systems. However, if you're dealing with a nation state level adversary, getting the bad guy might be kind of hard, even though, trust me, one of the rules doing nation state level attacks is like, don't effing get caught. If you're doing nation state stuff and there's any chance that you get caught, they're not necessarily worried about you personally. Trust me, they don't care. But if you burn a tools, tactics, or a procedure, a TTP, that can cost a lot of money in a capability. So a lot of the nation state level adversaries, if they do come across deception, they tend to back off very quickly and try to find another way to actually get in on that as well. Also, the more you learn about what the attackers are doing, it actually helps you establish better defensive approaches. Also, I'm here to tell you, a lot of the traditional defenses fail. A new update hits your EDR and all of a sudden all your tagging doesn't work and none of your alerting is firing. That happens. That happens like almost yearly in a lot of organizations. We see this all the time as a pen test firm. So having a backup tripwire that you can use is really critical. Now, earlier, we had talked briefly about Tor. I talked about it with Paige Thompson and some of the other things. And yes, attackers do use Tor, absolutely. But what's interesting is when you're talking to people about cyber offense and what people can do, and they're like, well, an attacker could do this, they could do this, they could do this, they could do this. They're absolutely 100% true about that. Oops. Let me pull that back up. They're absolutely true about that. But the problem is that if an attacker did everything right, the attacker would be in big trouble. Tor is very slow. If you're attacking web apps, you have to disable JavaScript to be completely safe, and you've just taken away 98% of the attack surface. So there's always going to be this balance as an attacker as far as what you can and cannot and should not do. So how does Tor work? Well, we run an application that's configured to use Tor, and it goes in through an entrance node. Once it hits an entrance node, it gets bounced around through multiple internal Tor nodes. And then after about 4, the picture here only has 3. After about 4, it pops out through an exit node. Okay. That does sufficiently scramble your IP address. However, understanding how hacker tools work matters quite a bit in how you make assumptions on what the attacker is doing when they're obfuscating their IP address. So what you can do is you can set up your tool to go through proxy chains and connect the Tor, right? So we can go through, use a SOCKS 5 proxy, send it through proxy chains, and you could run it through Nmap or run Nmap through it, Nessus, Metasploit through it. And if you do it right, they're not going to see your IP address, but very rarely do people do it right. most of the time they do it horribly, horribly, horribly wrong because they don't understand how things actually work. This is one of those things that I think is so important whenever we're talking about AI and computer security, is understanding just how dangerous this can be. So let me give you an example. Tor, if you're running like proxy chains, it wraps the TCP connect function on your system. That means anything that goes through that TCP connect function gets wrapped and forwarded through Tor going outbound. So let's take a look at an Nmap scan. We're running it as root. When Nmap runs initially, it sends 4 separate pings to try to identify if a host is alive. And it does this because any number of these could be blocked. So I'm going to start at the very beginning. We have this ICMP echo request here, right? Is ICMP TCP? No. So is that going to go through the TCP connect function? No, it's not. This one down here, the timestamp query, same thing. That's not going to go through TCP connect. We got the ICMP ones are now going to go directly to the victim's computer system, and the attacker wouldn't even know it. We move up on that one. We have an ACK packet to port 80. Is that going to go through TCP connect? No, that's not either, because it's an ACK packet. TCP connect would be a SYN packet. So that's 3 packets out of the 4 that Nmap sends. None of them are going to go through TCP connect and get routed through Tor. The final one right here, I send a SYN packet to port 443. That's finally a SYN packet. It's TCP. It's going to 443. Is that going to go through it? No, that's not either. Turns out when you run Nmap as root, Nmap runs with raw TCP socket access, completely bypassing the TCP connect function. In fact, you can set up everything, quote unquote, right for a standard SYN scan, and not a single packet is going to go through it because it's going to completely bypass the relay. The attacker won't even know. As far as they know, the scan's running great, everything looks fine, but every single one of the attack packets is coming directly from the attacker's computer system. So anything you do with the SYN scan, every single packet that you send through is going to go directly from the attacker's computer directly to the victim's computer system and light you up like a Christmas tree. So here's the right way, right? So if we try to set it up, we have to do a couple of things. One, we have to run Nmap so it's not pinging. So none of those 4 pings are going to go through. 2, we have to do a connect scan, which is denoted by little s, capital T. That will force Nmap to send all of its packets through the TCP connect function. And that's what it looks like. And for the record, it's slow, like really slow. If you've ever surfed the network, the internet through Tor, you would know it's not a pleasant experience at all. All right, so now let's talk about some additional ways that we can hunt things down. And we are going to talk about honey tokens. Pretty excited about this next section because we're going to play with some tokens, and then we're going to do some really, really cool stuff where we set up website cloning detection. So canary tokens, we can set up a ton of these different things, and I've already kind of played with this one. But when you get an alert, you can see that we have an alert here where someone tripped an alert. This is actually my brother at the last DerbyCon that ever happened. In the middle of the night, I got an idea, and we were sharing a room, and woke him up because I'm the older brother and I can do that. And I was like, dude, you got to run this. You got to run this. You got to run this. He was pissed, but he ran it because, you know what's awesome? Whenever your brother works for you or your sister works for you, you ever had that game when you're a kid, like, you're not the boss of me. You're not the boss of me. They work for me. I am the boss of them. And that's fun. So I had him trigger this, and you can see the IP address was 24.214.199 and 44. Now, when you're looking at that, that is an IP address. We're going to talk about how we can set that up a little bit better here a little bit later. Now, you can implement that canary token engine on your own. You don't have to run the one that's in the cloud, which we're going to play with here in just a little while. Now, you can implement your own APIs. You can set up all of those things, and that's fine, or you can build it locally. Setup, very easy. You just choose the type of token that you wish to create. In this one, it's a custom binary. You can give it an executable. In this example, the custom binary, I called it free candy, because who doesn't like free candy? Everyone loves candy. It's ridiculous, right? And then why not make it real, right? If you look at something like OpenVPN, you can create scripts, and those scripts can be ran to do anything you want when someone connects to your network. So instead of me going through and executing PowerShell and running a PS script or some Python or an executable, I can have it run an executable that does attribution of exactly where that attacker is. We have the capability to do that. How do we do this? Well, let's say we set up something like robots.txt, someplace that no general user would ever go. And we can create an executable called setup.exe. And inside of setup.exe, it can run a command, wlan show networks mode equals BSSID, and then it sends that data to us. Somebody sees this executable as an attacker, like, ooh, setup.exe file. That looks fun. And as soon as they run it, we get exactly where they are, not by their IP address, but by their wireless location. This is important because there's more than one way to get location. IP address is a little fuzzy. If we can get the wireless networks around that user, in this situation, doing show networks mode equals BSSID, I get all the wireless networks nearby, and I can forward that wireless network data onto Google, and Google will give me that exact geolocation. This is the one that we're going to be doing in the lab here in just a second with cloned websites. I love this one. It's easily my favorite. We create some JavaScript that as soon as somebody clones the website, you can see right here, it says if document domain is not equal to thinkus.com, it's going to reach back to the canary token server. So if somebody clones your website, it's not going to be on the right domain. It's going to fire, and it's going to give you the raw IP address of where that attacker is. So how does this geolocation work? If you look at wireless networks and how they work, like right now, I've got like 10 wireless networks nearby. I've got a bunch of wireless networks. So what I can do is get a wireless site survey by running a script. You don't need to be root to do this. And it'll show me all the wireless networks nearby and their relative strength. Based on their relative strength, you can do this frequency graph that can show you kind of the guesstimate of where these wireless networks would intersect with each other. And this is something that Apple and Android are doing constantly. They're constantly like all the wireless networks and finding geolocation. Why are they doing this? Because we share that information with our phones. Anytime you're using GPS to track you to Starbucks, it's tracking wireless networks and your geolocation constantly to find out where you are and constantly update their database. So a trigger, here we got a trigger at BHIS where somebody was attacking one of our cloned websites. And as soon as they cloned it, we knew that that IP address was getting ready to be used as a spear phishing attack. This is just a history of one. So this was actually a group. It doesn't show all of the locations. I think that this attack group was in Norway. We had these IP addresses, and then we had a bunch of other attacks that were correlated. It was either Sweden or Norway. I can't remember. And I went on Twitter and I said, whoever's trying to attack BHIS from Norway, please stop. They actually DM'd me. They created an account and they were like, how the hell did you know that we were attacking BHIS? And I'm like, traps, boys and girls, lots of traps. Word docs can do that as well. Word docs are great because we can put them on shares, compromised systems, websites. We can email them directly into spammers. And there are some things to keep in mind when we're doing this, right? One, a lot of times it requires the attacker to use Microsoft Word if you use the ones directly out of canary tokens. There's other ways that you can use this with cascading style sheets and image source tags, which I'll show you here in a second. So this goes back to my brother at the last DerbyCon. I wanted to show you that. Sent him this document. I wish it had the timestamp associated with it, but it was early. I think it was like 2 o'clock in the morning. And then he opened it, and this is back in 2019. So he opened this one, and I got the IP address 74.143.15.100, and that got me here. I told you this was at DerbyCon. That pin is 7 miles off of where we were. That's kind of bad. So what are we going to do about that? Well, turns out having a little bit of understanding on how IT works is really where the creativity and the awesomeness of using AI and all these different things can really make you shine. In this particular thing, there's a couple of things that I knew. One, the IP address of the hotel that we were staying at most likely was assigned via dynamic host configuration protocol on the ISP side. That means they have a bucket of IP addresses and they hand them out. Two, they're not going to geolocate those IP addresses because they're dynamic. That's just how the protocol works. So why bother? If it's in the rough location, good enough. But I got to thinking about the way the internet works. And what I got to thinking is trace route. So I trace routed from my cell card on my system, and I trace routed to the network for the hotel. And my theory was if I went back 1 or 2 hops, that the geolocation would be far more accurate because I'd be geolocating a router for the ISP. So while the DHCP IP addresses for end IP addresses is going to be not very accurate at all, the next to last routing hop would be far more accurate because that's an actual routing point of presence for an internet service provider. And we were right. In this situation, we were staying, where were we? Right here at the Hyatt Regency. And this is the pin of where the routing hop was. So from a geolocation perspective, we went from being about 6-7 miles off to being a block away. That is awesome. That is really cool. But it doesn't work that well with Linux Word documents, right? You have to have a different way. If somebody's going to try to use LibreOffice or some other thing to look at Word documents, how are we going to get that in a way, and also trying to get away from mark of the web, from executing active code? Well, there's other ways that you can do this. One of the ways that you can do it is you can put it into cascading style sheet or an image source tag, which will be honored by LibreOffice and all of the other text editors. And that brings us to our next lab. So this particular lab, I'm going to go ahead. We are back to our active defense and cyber deception virtual machine. We're back to where we should be. Go ahead and close that out. And I am going to go back to our navigation, and we are going to do the lab. Oh, Canary Token Cloner. All right, there it is. So let me put this up. This is the lab we're going to do, and you can go and play more with Canary tokens if you want to. But you're going to go to canarytokens.com, and you're going to go into Nest. You're going to go down to the JavaScript cloned website, and you're going to create a token that you can insert on JavaScript. Let me go ahead and close some of these out. Destroy that lab. Come back here. There we go. You're going to become root on your Kali terminal. And then you're going to CD into the opt-oa honeypot directory, same one that we did before, but now we're going to make some changes. We're going to go into templates. We're going to nano the Outlook web.html, and we're going to add right after the head tag, a command or a tag called script. Then you're going to paste your Canary token into that section right past the head. And then you're going to put a close script at the bottom. You're going to put a close script tag. So you're going to have script, paste in your JavaScript, close script. And then you're going to go Control O to write out. You're going to hit enter. You're going to do Control X to leave. You're going to back up one directory. And then you're going to monitor that activity. You can actually trigger the honeypot by surfing to the website. Now, the point of this is if an attacker was to clone your website and create a website like this one, intercepting user IDs and passwords in a phishing attack, the trigger would fire and you would know that somebody has cloned your website before they send a single spear phishing email into your organization. All right, we're right on time. So we're going to do 20 minutes. Let's do 30 minutes. We have 20 minutes for the lab, and then we got 10 minutes for break, and I'll see you on the other side.
I can't let go. flicker, shadows on the wall. Do light grieving, I don't feel tired at all. Notifications quiet, the timer slows. World on airplane mode, nobody knows. Ideas moving under my skin. Cursor blinking, telling me begin. City asleep, but I'm alive. Heartbeat sync to the drive. Nothing loud, nothing bright. Just the cold in the night. City asleep, but I'm alive. You go slow. Think deep, no show, no sleep. Breath in, lean in, let it flow, begin. Not chasing noise, not chasing fame, just chasing that feeling when it clicks in my brain. Silence electric, air feels thin. Nothing exists but the state I'm in. City asleep, but I'm alive. Heartbeat
We're back. All right, so let's go ahead and let's get started on this. So the first thing we're going to do is we're going to go to the nest, and we are going to create the JavaScript canary token right here. And I'm going to put in the domain bhis.co, and I'm going to put in a trigger of hello. So now I know that it has been triggered. Then it's going to create the token. So now we have the JavaScript that I need to put on the website. So I've got my my Kali instance running right here. So now what we're going to do is we're going to go through the effort of like how we can insert that inside of our website. So if an attacker were to clone this website and it wasn't associated with the domain bhis.co for a spear phishing attack, I would then be able to see somebody had cloned my website right away, which is really cool. So we're going to cd into opt OA honeypot. Here we go. So far, so good. And now we're going to go into the templates directory, like so. And then we're going to edit that Outlook web.html file. And we're going to go right here to the head. And then we're going to put in a script tag like that. And then we're going to insert our canary token, copy that, paste it in here. To clean this up a little bit. There we go. And then as it says in the instructions, we've got to close that script out, right? So we've got to put in the script tag right here, this close script tag. We're going to go ahead and put that right down here in the bottom, right? So now we've got it completely contained. So now that's our JavaScript. Now, one quick additional thing, some people would look at this and be like, well, an attacker would totally look at that. And if they looked at that, then they would say that this looks like it's a canary token. Well, you can obfuscate it. The other thing that's really cool about the obfuscation, what's really, really super cool is AI generated websites generate code that looks like that all the time. It just looks absolutely hideous. So an attacker wouldn't think anything abnormal was in play here. So I'm going to write it out. And we're going to save it as outlook.html, and I'm going to Control X to close that session. Then we're going to cd back to one directory. There we go. And then we are going to start the server. Okay. So now at this particular point, all we have to do is surf to this website right here. And then we can see what the website looks like, right? We can actually see what it looks like there. So let me go ahead and paste and go. Here we go. We've got our Outlook. So this would be the example of a cloned website. So an attacker has cloned this website to intercept credentials from people that are using this website. But in the background, when this website is running, the code that they cloned on that website is not like they just ran a cloner and they grabbed all the JavaScript and everything associated with it. In the background, I can go to manage this canary token, and then we can see that this token has been triggered. And here there's a really good barbecue place next to it. So let's see if that barbecue place is next to it. So here we've got the token. We've got it triggered. And if I go back here, we got Carolina Brothers Pit Barbecue. And that is the location. And this is the IP address that is the evil IP address. So you can actually put this in your website in a number of different places, and you would want to put it in places with authentication. Anywhere that has authentication, you want to make sure that that domain equals the domain it should be, because the attacker is not going to run the attack on the specific domain. The attacker is going to run this attack, and they're going to run it on a lookalike domain, like not bhis.co. It's going to be bh1s.com or edu or something like that, right? They're going to make that look similar with Cyrillic characters. It's not going to be the same. And as soon as they clone that website, you've got them. I didn't know that there was Yum Yum Hibachi nearby as well. So yep, this is around Amazon's data center because this server is hosted in Amazon. So that's where it's at. All right, so that is the lab for canary tokens. Once again, catching those spear phishing attacks before they even launch a spear phishing attack against your organization. Very helpful. All right, so word web bugs. We had talked about this briefly, how the canary token documents, which we can go back to our nest here. We can go to my tokens. Let's go back here. Let's create a new canary token. We can create a word web bug that fires, and this works pretty well, right? I can put in an email address, put in this, and then I can create this token, download the file, and then open that file. It might take a few minutes for it to actually fire on that. I can activate. Oh, wait, no, this is an unactivated version of Microsoft Word. Use it in my browser all the time. And that's fine. But the problem is, if you look at this, it only fires in the event that it's in Microsoft Word. It's not actually running it. It's not actually running it if we were running something like LibreOffice and all of that. And for the record, that's the pin where it put us. And my office is right over here. So it got us in the right city. So it got us to our point of presence in Sturgis, South Dakota. And I'm right over here is where I am actually at. So not that far off, actually. So it did a really good job. But there's more than Word, right? Like LibreOffice is absolutely a thing. And this is becoming more of a thing, especially as you're looking at the EU is trying to create more and more daylight between US-based companies. There's a number of countries in the European Union that are actively trying to separate out from Microsoft Office, Google, and any US-based company out there as well. Holy moly, that looks warm. Looks very warm to me. So here's how you can make a document using traditional doc format that generally works pretty well. So you would have HTML head, and then you would put in a cascading style sheet, and then you would put in an image source kit tag. One of the things that's really cool about using this is this completely bypasses Mark of the Web because it's not really active content. It's merely pulling down how to format and images to put on the page itself. And it does work pretty well. When you open the document, the only thing that's going to show is what a buggy document, but the rest of it isn't going to show inside of the Word document as well. And it works pretty good, right? So we have this figure where it triggers and we can see the user agent string for Microsoft Office making this request coming in. And it is, in fact, a direct connection. We can go further. It actually works with Avi Word, LibreOffice, Apple TextEdit, and it also works with Microsoft Word. The only problem with this particular technique is it works with traditional, it works with traditional docx or doc format, not docx. The canary token ones work on docx format as well. So it's a little bit of an advantage. So if we're going to run Word web bugs in the enterprise, one of the key components that we'd want is understanding the psychology of what an attacker would actually be after. Don't just put out a document that's called honeypot.doc. It's probably not going to go over very well, right? We need to look at it in terms of like sensitive documents, like secret, top secret, formulas, tax information, whatever we think an attacker would see, passwords.doc. Go on, be obvious. It's perfectly fine to do that. No, absolutely be obvious. Attackers never really think of themselves as being victims. They never really think of themselves as being hunted. They're very comfortable with the idea that they are the aggressors. And the idea of something like this, it almost never crosses their mind ever in what they're actually doing. So we don't want any long-term persistent access. We don't want to drop any malware on their systems. Just a really simple callback is all we want. And remember, from a legal perspective, this is your document. This is your intellectual property. You don't have to worry about them being like, well, you hacked a hacker. That's not what you're doing. You're not getting persistent access whatsoever for it. So now let's talk a little bit more about cyber deception on the cheap and some additional things that we can do. And we'll talk about honey shares here in just a couple of minutes. There's a lot of different commercial cyber deception products that are out there. We got Javelin Network, Symmetria, Elusive, Atio, TrapX, Acclivio. A bunch of these companies sell products. And ideally for me, if I'm successful in this class, I get you all to the point where you can get budget to use these products because it integrates with your overall tech stack. You have automation, a bunch of these things are ready to rock and roll. Now, the goal of this is how can we enter this in Active Directory in such a way where it's quick and dirty and super easy to prove the value of cyber deception. And what's weird is once you get some level of success with these different tools and techniques, it tends to snowball very, very, very quickly. So here's an example, a Honey admin account. This is very similar to a Honey user account, but we can create targeted admin accounts. And I want to talk about how we can create an account safely, where it's active, has a valid password, but the attacker would never be able to log into it. A little bit of protection, right? So the first thing you would do is create an admin account. And don't worry, be obvious. That's perfectly fine to do, right? We can go through and we can create the account. We can call it admin, administrator, ADM, SCADA admin. We see these admin accounts all of the time out there, just constantly being used in legitimate ways. People don't pull their punches on their admin accounts hardly ever. Now, here's the kicker. You want to disable that account without disabling that account. So you could actually go through and just disable it, but the attacker would never log into it. None of the different attack tools out there that go through and do password sprays actually will hit accounts that are disabled. They just skip them. So we want the account to be active, but not able to be logged into. So what you can do is set all of its logon hours to none. So it can be an active account that is set up that has no login hours. So I got a question. How much should we tell our internal dev teams about honey tokens and honey pots we're planning on to use? I want to make sure they have enough context so they don't actually break anything. I also don't want to share so much detail. I wouldn't tell them a damn thing. You would create honey docs, you'd put it out on a share that no one should ever go to and just let it go. And the reason for that is if you have somebody in your environment that's just casually perusing documents to see what they can gain access, that is an insider threat. So you don't want to be too obvious, like top secret or payroll information. Just have a folder. It's like FYI Q1 2026, a nondescript name, and see if people are jumping into folders that they have no permission ever jumping into. And that is a risk. All right, I just set up Kiwi as an example, cheap SIM that I can throw down very easily. It's not an enterprise SIM under any circumstances, but showing you how quick we can set this up. Run a password spray, and we've got an alert. We've got an alert of the administrator account being accessed. And once again, that attacker would never be able to log in because its logon hours are disabled. So the account is active, it's real, you just can't ever log into it because its login hours are all disabled. So some other things that we can do is we can create honey shares, which is going to take us to the next lab. In this one, we have an SMB server that we're running within Packet that we're going to be using in Kali. We're going to be running this in the active defense and cyber deception VMs here in just a couple of seconds. We have an SMB server that is just going to be sitting there. We're giving it a name like secret, I've got a secret. And as soon as somebody tries to access that share, it automatically logs who, when, and as an added bonus, it actually gives us their authentication with NetNTLM v2 authentication as well. So that brings us to our next lab. So let's dive into the lab directory. Let's go to Honey Share. Here we go. So the goal of this lab is going to be inside of our Kali VM and the regular active defense and cyber deception class lab environment. So we're going to go ahead and we're going to change our settings, change our appearance. I'm going to go ahead and change that to bold 12, 16, looks better. There we go. And then what you're going to do is you're going to get your IP address. You're going to go to Packet examples, and it should kind of look like this when you start the server. Now we're naming it something obvious. And the reason why is because if an attacker gets access to your environment and they run net use, it's going to show them all of the different shares that are in that entire environment. And you do that right now. If you're at work, just type net use. And you'll see all the different systems and the shares associated with that system. So what we're doing is we're creating a share that looks super sketch. We're going to call it secret. Then you're going to go to your Windows system and you're going to run net use, because this is what an attacker would do. Net use star whack whack, and we're going to put in the IP address of your Linux computer system, secret, and then you're going to see what actually happens. This is a pretty quick lab. Let's go ahead and let's give it 15 minutes. We'll do a 10-minute break, and then we will come back. So 25 minutes on the timer. Get to it. All right, let's go through this lab. Okay. So the first thing that we're going to do is we're going to get our IP address, right? Because we need that. Get that IP. And then we're going to go ahead and become root on the system. Make sure I'm sharing my screen. There we go. Right. Should look like that. I need to CD into packet examples. Here we go. And then we're going to run this command to start the server. Now, this actually takes a few minutes for it to fire up. So if you look at this and you're like, okay, it seems hung, that's normal. But that's an opportunity for us to run the net use star, whack, whack. We put in the IP address of our Linux computer here. So I'll put that in. So we'll put in 10.10.249.180/secret, like that. I think I got that right. I hope I got that right. Go ahead and set that up. Looks good. Let's make an enter. Oh, looks like another lab puked on me today. That's unfortunate. I mean, it looks like maybe Microsoft fixed the issue. If we look at this message, it says you can't access this shared folder because your organization's security policies block unauthenticated guest access. These policies help your PC from unsafe and malicious. Oh, it's good. It's really great. Microsoft went through the effort to stop us from making guest access, unauthenticated guest access, no guest access at all, and the policies to protect us from malicious devices on the network. I guess score one for Microsoft. Except for in the background, it totally did try to authenticate right here. I don't know why, but Microsoft generates this error and it's like, hey, that's bad. You shouldn't do that bad thing. It's a really bad thing. But in the background, it totally did the bad thing. So we got the administrator account authenticated successfully. We have the administrator, the machine name, and the password hash. And this is the challenge key for the authentication. So oops, I guess maybe that's the way we could look at that, I suppose. So yeah, so this works because we can set this up. We can run this, and now you have the secret server that anytime anyone tries to authenticate, we can grab that, throw it into our SIM or an N8N or whatever automation workflow. And I would recommend if you have a system that's just blindly trying to access shares, maybe, just maybe that's not a system you want sitting around on your network. Okay. All right. I want to close out with some other stupid blue team tricks before we close out for the day and we get on with the 4th of July weekend. I'm excited. This has been a really good class, good way to kind of get to the midpoint of the summer. And I have some other dumb things for you. One of the ones that I have that is incredibly stupid, actually, a lot of the things that I've done in this class that we've turned into labs actually originated from me being part of CTF challenges. I would usually be on the red team, the people doing the hacking. And the problem with that was it got boring. A lot of those CTF challenges, the blue team got like nothing. They got like a wet noodle, like Windows 2000 systems and Linux 2.4 kernels. And the red teamers got like the best hacking tools in the world. And that didn't seem fair to me. So I would set up all kinds of things like, we got Honey Badger. I'll talk about that here in a little bit. One of my favorites was this. So we can use this infinitely recursive directory loop to mess with an attacker. So if I go to my Windows computer system and I open up this terminal, I can do CD to the top level directory. What are my instructions on this? And then I make dir and I make a directory called go away. Like that, CD and to go away. And then once you're in here, you generate a symbolic link to a directory inside of that go away directory. So go make link space /d. And we'll call it dir1. Did I screw up my syntax? Oh, I didn't put the full path to it. So go C:, go away like that. And then the problem is whenever an attacker gets into this directory, if they are doing something like a CTF and they're doing an indexed search of the entire system, if they do dir /s looking for a file, it's going to hit this infinitely recursive directory loop and it immediately runs into a problem. So you see with this particular stupid pet trick that you can do with your computer system, every time it goes into dir1, it appends dir1 to the end until it gets to 128 characters and then it stops. But the way to get around that is just create another directory and call it dir2 like that. And then try the thing. So if an attacker gained access to my computer on these CTF challenges and they started doing a search on my system using like Metasploit, I think I just crashed it. Oh, it's still going. If they were sitting on that system and they started searching for a flag, as soon as they would get to this directory, it would break their implant. If they were running Metasploit or Cobalt Strike or anything like that, it would completely seize, because the only way to do this is to do Control-C. But if you Control-C, it doesn't kill the session of the infinitely recursive loop. It actually kills their implant as well. So that's kind of a fun little trick that you can do to mess with attackers as well. It just goes on. And there's all kinds of other tools that are out there, like Deploy Deception, a series of PowerShell modules to basically create a bunch of Active Directory decoy objects, really just making it easy for you to put this stuff in your environment and make it work. We created a tool called the Cred Defense Toolkit, which needs to be updated at BHIS, and you can download it for free. It does all kinds of things like detecting link local multicast name resolution, does things like stop you from using really weak passwords and so on. We also have another, like a whole bunch of other cool blogs that I wanted to work into it, like creating cyber deception lures and attribution with Microsoft Sentinel was a webcast and a blog post that we had done as well. So at the TAC, this is a real short section, because you can take almost any of the different things that we have generated and you can go full tilt access for the attacker's computer system. So if you take like an evil Visual Basic application, you can convert it into an executable. Super easy. Or if you have an evil executable, you can convert it back into a Visual Basic application as well. So in this particular one, we can take an executable. Let's say a Metasploit executable. Let's do this. So if we go to our labs and we go to the Windows labs right here, what is it? Windows CLI lab is up here. So if I go to the Windows CLI lab, we give you instructions to create a malicious executable. You can take that malicious executable and you can convert it into any like Visual Basic application that you want it to be. Super easy just by using this script. Additional tools that we have released to the public. One of them is a tool called Honey Badger. And this allows you to take a Visual Basic script and you can embed it inside of a Word document or an Excel spreadsheet. And inside of this Visual Basic script, it executes netsh wlan. Let me see if I can pull up the highlighter here. It runs netsh wlan show networks mode equals BSSID. And then it writes it out to a file called Wi-Fi DAT. And then it feeds that file back up to the people that like your team to be able to detect it. So this is a tool that we have out there. And I used to have a lab with this tool, but the problem is we moved everything to the cloud and you don't have wireless adapters in the cloud. Like if you go into the CTF environment and you control out of this, let's open up a command prompt and you do netsh WLAN, you're going to get an error because there's no WLAN interfaces. So that's a problem, right? So you can do netsh WLAN show networks if you have a wireless adapter. So this is pretty cool. So Honey Badger, I've already talked about. We've already done it. We're in the section called Honey Badger. So this is a tool that was originally written by Tim Tomes at Black Hills Information Security, and it allowed you to create a Java application or any number of different things that would record the geolocation of an attacker. So if they downloaded that application and they ran that Java applet, it would automatically fire and get their location on it. But it makes OS calls to query nearby wireless networks and then sends that data to Google's API to get geolocation. And then it just gives it, because this is something that every app that's written on Android is using this API and using this application out there as well. Just some things. This is literally an attacker that was using Tor, that was going after one of Tim Tomes' system, and we got a pin right on Moscow. He sent this to me and he was so excited about it, and that was pretty cool. This was before the war, of course. This is the logs kind of looking like it. So you got all this base64 encoded data. And when you decode it, it is literally all the wireless networks and the relative signal strength for each one of those wireless networks. Then you take that wireless network data and then you send it down to Google's API for maps, and then it'll return back here, and it'll give you the location, the latitude, and longitude of the attacker that pulled down that information. And we've had attackers run this over the years. There's a bunch of fun stories where we've used this in a number of different ways. This is actually Tim's old house. This is an attacker in Melbourne. We had a couple more in Russia and one in Kiev. This is one that was at Pepperdine University. The students, we actually were able to get the username. So we had Chris Snooze, and I actually called the dorm room because this was at the dorm, and I was able to get him on the phone. That was kind of fun. I freaked him out a little bit on that one. But this is literally one that Tim Tomes came up with. So it's pretty cool. Now, the trick is getting people to trust the app, right? And we really like VNC Viewer and Java applets where people can download these things and try to connect to the VNC service. And you got to make them believe it's okay. But once again, even though a lot of this technology is very old, it's kind of out of date, seriously, vulnerable software is absolutely everywhere. So if we can come up with any level of vulnerable software that an attacker would have to download and run, we can insert our cyber deception or attributional technologies inside of that. And this is just an example, end-of-life product again, 24,000 end-of-life products. Once again, you don't have to appear to be cutting edge on these things at all. So little story I'll tell you, and then we're going to kind of close out for the day and everyone can get on with their 4th of July weekend. Are we ready with the bingo cards, Megan?
Yep.
All right. So what we're going to do is we're going to play ourselves some bingo. I think we've already got a winner. So get that winner hot and ready to go on
Yes,
that.
I've got it. I've got it ready. So just let me know when you want me to come back.
You bet. So just sit tight. We're almost there. This was a bank that I went to, and I wasn't initially hired to do cyber deception at this bank. As I've talked about a lot, we're starting up a European division of Black Hills Information Security, where we have offices in Germany in a little town called Mittenwald, and then also in Krakow, Poland, in Krakow. So we're trying to do more there. And I've been doing work in Germany for a while, but this one bank a number of years ago contacted me and they said, we want you to come out for a couple of weeks. And this is a weirdly timed contract. I got this call. They wanted me to go out there, and it was right over Thanksgiving. Like I would be flying out on Thanksgiving Day. And I created this invoice that wasn't like an insult per se, but it was a very high number. It was like, if I'm going to Germany for 2 weeks, we're going to make sure that it's well worth my wife and I's while to do that if I'm going to be gone. Honestly, I didn't even think that. I was just thinking they would just say no. And they immediately signed the contract. And they sent it back to me, and then they sent a request for an invoice, and they converted the value to euros. So euros were a lot more valuable than dollars at that time. So I took it down to my wife and I showed it to her. And she was initially a little frustrated because I was going to be gone on Thanksgiving. Once again, not expecting that they would sign it. And then she saw the dollar amount and she like walks out of the kitchen. I'm like, what are you doing? And she's like, I'm packing, you know? So we took the whole family out to Germany for a couple of weeks. And we spent the weeks downtown. My wife actually got a hotel right next to the train station. And if you've ever traveled in Europe, let's just say being next to the train station is not the best hotels in the world. They're generally pretty sketch. The hotel that we were staying at was an hotel because the H was burnt out, and it had a gate that you had to buzz to get in. And we found out it was like a very skeevy hotel. It was very affordable. When we showed up, the lady that was there was like, oh my God, you have children. That's not a good question. You want to hear from the front desk attendant. And she sent, I assumed it was her husband, to go put new carpet in our hotel rooms. We had 2 rooms that were adjoining, and literally the guy rolls out with this huge roll of carpet, and they're yelling at each other at German, goes upstairs. She makes us a really nice meal, and we hang out, and then he comes downstairs shortly after, and he's like, well, there's carpet in the room now. And it was like the most like horrible cut carpet, like none of the corners matched up. It was like an oversized rug. And that was kind of crazy. But my wife and I and the kids were all getting snuggled in. The kids are in one room. My wife and I are in another. And while I'm in bed, this guy just like bursts into the room, like unlocks the door, comes straight in, gets right up next to me and says, don't let the children turn on the television, and like left. And of course, my kids hear this and they spend all of their time trying to figure out how they can turn on the television. I did turn on the television to see what the hell was going on. And every station had a different type of porn. Super skeevy hotel. Had bars on the windows. I didn't know if the bars would keep people out or keep people in. I had no clue. No mirrored ceiling. There was no mirrored ceiling in that. But yeah, it was definitely in the red light district. My kids were like, there's balloons for sale on the street corners, Dad. Can I get a balloon? And we're like, no. So it was kind of fun. But I spent 2 weeks at this bank and we set up some cyber deception on the edge of their network. And this is what we got. So what we did is we took all of these different IP addresses. We looked up the ASN numbers for these IP addresses, reversed it, and saw if any of the systems inside of that environment were communicating out to any of these ASNs. And we found 3 systems that were compromised. Cyber deception is threat intelligence. It's threat intelligence about what's happening in your environment right now. Here's another one. This was a number of years ago, over a decade now. We were able to gain access to a botnet C2 server. It was just part of an IR engagement. And we closed SSH. We did all these things. We created the VNC applet. We deployed the VNC applet. And we were able to get pinpoints of all the people that were running the botnet. It was an organized crime group. So that was pretty cool. We handed this over to law enforcement. Law enforcement didn't even know what the hell to do with it. It was like, here you go. Here's where they are. It's their addresses. Here's a pin on every one of them. They're like, what do I do with this? It's like the investigation is done. So kind of closing up, we've got kind of, like bookend slides. Active defense, the employment of limited offensive actions, counterattacks. We're trying to move beyond just passive defense, right? And we're using that offensive capability in a defensive posture. So these are all just kind of refreshing slides. And I want you to think about this, right? This is your house. I got rid of the Kevin McAllister slides, but this is your house. It's like Home Alone. Whenever you have bad people come into your home, you are the one that's in control of that environment. And we need to act like it. So we're going to do the raffle real quick, and we're going to go through who won the raffle. Megan?
Okay. Are you ready? Let me get back to my list here. The winner today for 1 year's access to our on-demand catalog, as well as 1 year to the cyber range, is Grammy06 Adam. In parentheses.
Right.
Are you here?
Grammy06 Adam.
Can't win.
Must be present to win.
Must be present. So should we do the da-na-na-na-na-na? I don't know.
I don't know.
Grammy.
I always like it when we're at Wild West Hacking Fest and we have the raffle tickets.
I know. They're like, and you call the people. Yeah. I don't know. I don't think Grammy's here. Well, you know what? Let me go to the next person. Okay.
They're there, Grammy.
Oh, they're here. They're here.
Wait a minute. Did you say Grammy 72?
Okay. You won. So I will be sending you a private message, and I will be getting your information, and we will get you onboarded.
All right.
Hey.
All right. With that, everybody, you know what? I've kept you a long time. 4th of July weekend starts now for me, and I think we should get out of here. Thank you so much, everybody. Can't wait to see you at the next class.
All right. Bye, John. Have a good weekend.
See ya.
Okay, everybody. We will be sending out certificates of completion shortly. So if you've registered, you will be getting those after 4 p.m. I'll go ahead and just send them out manually since we are closed tomorrow. And if you have any questions, you can certainly reach out to us via email, support@anti-training.com. And we hope to see you in the next one. Don't forget about our upcoming summits and other free and nearly free events in our workshops. Keep an eye on the calendar, and we hope to see you in the next one. All right. Have a good weekend. Happy 4th of July to everybody. And Daryl, it's time to finally kill it with fire. All right. Have a good one, everybody. Thanks for joining us.